All right, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Leo Valentino podcast. I got my boy, one of my really good friends, Mr. Junior Godino, and we are going to go over some real good stuff. But I want to just jump right into it because we have small attention spans at this point. I have the same problem, but you're a very confident person. Your mindset is very strong. That's why I brought you on here today. And that's actually why we're really good friends, is because we're able to communicate with each other on a high level and on the same wavelength. But I want to ask you, why are you so confident? What makes you a confident person from your background, from your mindset? Explain that to me.
I would say my confidence came from my upbringing. I've been on my mom's side of the family, which I'm closest with. I'm the youngest sibling. So cousins, everyone is older than me. I'm the baby of the entire family. So I had a lot of people to learn from. And I'm the youngest of two older brothers that are very masculine older brothers. So growing up, I've never really, had the life that other people had of just like messing around and all the time and stuff. And if I was messing around with my brothers, it was like wrestling or boxing and doing that sort of stuff. So they always helped me tap into having the confidence and making sure that I'm always kind of like a tougher person. And I thank them a lot for that. And also my parents. My dad came from Mexico when he was about like 8 or 10 years old. He's been working his entire life, would wake up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. and work in the fields at the time with his dad, with his siblings. Up until around 7:30, they would come back, go to school, and then do a whole day of school right after school, go right back to the fields until probably like around 9 p.m. and do that every single day. So he's been a workhorse his entire life. My mom has always worked 2 jobs as long as I can remember. She raised my 2 older brothers by herself for a very long period of time. So I've always had these people in my life that have tried to instill the strong persona and the confident persona, because they always taught me that was going to lead to a lot of better things in life, right? Not being so weak, but instead of just trying to be stronger mentally, which is going to help me push through any kind of situations and problems I'm going to have further on in life.
So your parents were very strong people, very hardworking people, and you have 2 brothers that probably helped instill a certain self-talk that you have today that allows you to be so confident. But walk me through the inside of your mind, right? If we switched minds for a moment, how would I be thinking? How would I see the world right now when I go on social media, or when I look outside, or when I look at myself in the mirror? If I was you, how would I be thinking?
Kind of like what we talked about before. What I try to think about every single day is a new paragraph or a new page in my book, right? And when I say my book, I refer to, if someone was reading my life, what would the book be about? How interesting would it be? Is it worth reading? That's what I try to live every day as, in every situation I come across. Maybe, there's a situation where some friends ask me to go out and do this and go to this club and go to this party with all these things, but I know I have to do something else. If the person is reading my book of life right now, kind of what's going to be a better story of me just going out and blowing the day and just having some fun? I guess it's not really interesting to read, is it? So instead, maybe I should sit down and finish working on this offer so that in a couple of days I could sell it for, maybe a high ticket or something that I've been working on for so long. That's a lot more interesting to me. So that's how I work, or try to think of every single day, is how can I make my book so much more interesting? How can I make this chapter worthwhile of sitting down and reading for so long of everything I'm doing? What can I make this day as interesting as possible? That's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed that I've been living my life by. That's helped a lot.
Looking at just the perspective of your life, not so much as in your decisions are just going throughout the day, but somebody else, whether it be your kids in the future or the world looking at your life, it's like, oh, they're reading Junior's book. It's like he woke up at 9 and then he did nothing. Skip, I'm going to the next book.
Yep.
You're thinking like what you just did this week was I woke up at 4 a.m. for the past 5 days. I chose to do a marathon, so I did a marathon. Tell me about that. Give me what the rundown was during that time of you actually doing the marathon.
Yeah, so crazy choice of mine. Probably the craziest choice I've made in a very long time. But you know, I would say maybe a week before that marathon, I was thinking like, what's the hardest thing I could do to end this year off so that I can go into the next year with so much more energy because I just did the hardest thing I've ever done. Right. So, and honestly, 2023 was probably the best year of my life. Traveled, met amazing people, did a lot of good work, just a lot of great things. So I wanted to end it off with a bang. And I was like, what? I sat down and I said, what do I not like to do? What's hard for me? And I hate running. I hate it. And I was like, okay, what's the hardest thing when it comes to running a marathon? All right, let's do a marathon. Screw it. Well, why not? I didn't think twice about it. I didn't think, oh, what about if I don't finish it or how much it's going to hurt? I just think that's the hardest thing. So let's do it. I went on and I found a marathon race and I bought it. And it was in literally like 5 days. I've never run more than 2 miles, and those 2 miles were forced upon me during sports. So it was never like out of, I want to do this. No, I had to do it. So 2 days later, I ran 3 miles at like 4 a.m. during when we started the 5 a.m. challenge. I was like, okay, I'm gonna just get my running in here. I ran 3 miles without stopping, and it was pretty easy. It was good. So I was feeling confident going into this little marathon. But 3 miles is the farthest I've ever ran. And I was looking at it. It was a half marathon. So it was 13 miles. And I was like, okay, well, I got 10 more to go, after these 3. And then that was like 3 days before the race. And then I ended up having to do some other stuff. So I didn't really get to train that much before the race. And so I just showed up. And let me tell you, that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, because the mental battle it took was insane. But if I had to tell you, did I believe I could do it and I was going to do it? Absolutely. Because, up until that point, I knew if I wanted to do something, I was going to be able to do it. And that race really just, stamped the piece of paper that said, all right, if I want to do something, I'm capable of doing it. If I tell myself I'm going to do it. Because at mile 5, mile 6, I was just having the biggest mental battle ever with myself of like, dude, my feet feel broken. My hamstrings are so tight. I feel like they're going to snap. My quads, my knees are in shambles. It was incline. It was uphill, downhill. The total elevation I tracked it was 2,900 feet, almost 3,000 feet of how high we ended up getting up in elevation. So it was super tough. And the talks I was having with myself were crazy, because I was like, I can't do this. And I go ahead and look at the map and I'm like, well, there's no other way to finish it but finish the race. Like, I can't get out of here unless I finish it. So definitely mental battle after, my legs were shaking, my feet were cramping, everything was hurting. I drove home. My dad had to help me out the truck because it's a high truck. So I went to jump out and felt like my ankles were going to give out. I had to hop in the ice bath, everything. But just that process of having that mental battle of running. I ended up running 14 miles because I ran off track. I missed a turn because I was so locked in and I was just looking down. So I missed a turn. I ran an extra mile just for the little cherry on top. I guess I could say I ran further than everyone there, but that was just kind of the mindset I wanted. That was like the challenge I wanted. So I was grateful for it, right? I wanted it to be the hardest thing I've ever done because that was the whole point of it. So after that race, I was just like, that was the best choice I've ever made. And I'm so happy that I can now go celebrate New Year's Eve that night with you and a bunch of other friends, knowing that I already accomplished so much earlier that day. And everyone else I looked at, you know, in the area that we were at that night, I knew I had such a big one up on everyone because I just did something that was so difficult. Now I get to celebrate.
How does that feel? Like in that moment, like how genuinely does it feel?
Oh, dude, it's like, it's second to none because, you know, you get all your friends that do know about it and they're like, you know, I'm so proud of you. You know, that was sick, good accomplishment. And hearing the words of like someone else is proud of you and you know it's genuine is probably the best feeling you could ever feel because you worked so hard to do it and you get the closest people around you. You get that small little reward. And it's not so much of just feeling like a confidence booster. It's not nothing of that sort, but it's just kind of a check-in mentally that what you're doing is paying off. And that's the biggest reward. You know you're going in the right direction. You know you're doing the right things. And the people that you spend the most time with are giving you that acknowledgement. So in my mind, I don't take it as like, oh yeah, I know I did a half marathon. I'm better than everyone. I just said, okay, like people are giving you some reassurance. I'm doing the right thing. Noted. Let's keep going. Let's go on to the next thing. That's how I kind of track it in my mind.
You know, something I noticed about you, I've always noticed about you, and I said this in the beginning of the podcast, is the way that you're speaking right now. You kind of highlight the way that your mind works and you highlight how you go about things, how you talk to yourself in such a positive way where you pick yourself up in moments and you make sure that you are doing what's best for yourself. My question here is, why don't people think like this? Why is it not a natural way of thinking?
I would say because people find some other source of easier fulfillment. And because this fulfillment is really difficult, it's something that I had to practice day after day after day. And people would rather go on and edit the best picture of themselves and post it and get a bunch of likes and comments and have all their girlfriends or whatever commenting, you're so pretty, you're so beautiful, or, you know, I get that. Oh my God, yes. People love how I look. People love this. People love that. But people don't want to go through doing something so difficult just for the chance of like a little bit of a relief because of all the amount of work that has gone into it. A little backstory of what's helped me get to this point is I was horrible in school. I was not a good student. I never clicked with school. I always had bad grades. I struggled with tests, you know, couldn't focus, all that fun stuff. And all my friends were super good in school. So I could never relate with them when it came to academic things. You know, they're saying, oh, I aced this test. Oh, me too. They'd ask me what my score was. I'd be like, oh, I got a B. But really, I got like a C or like a D. And I knew in the back of my head that, you know, like this sucks because I feel like the outcast. And I definitely knew a bunch of my friends kind of knew how bad of a student I was. So, you know, people have their thoughts of like, oh, he's probably not going to do anything in college. He's probably just going to have a whatever job and this stuff. So I always had to create the mindset of what else can I do that's so much better? And how can I talk confident about myself around people that don't think confident about me because of school in that setting? So I had to do that every single day for so many years, whether it's middle school, high school, elementary school, whatever it was. I had to keep practicing that because I couldn't relate when it came to school. And at that age, you know, I know, you know, we all know like you're at school every single day for 8 hours a day. That's all you really have time to connect with people. So that's a big part on me feeling like an outcast because I never had the grades and I never had the academic skills that my friends had. So creating that confidence outside of school and with other sorts of skills was super important to me. Maybe at the time, people didn't view those skills as like something worthwhile or something impressive. But now it's paying off. Now it's paying off a lot.
So you weren't the best students and everyone else around you was, you know, pretty good students.
Yeah.
And when you were talking, it almost felt you had to supplement something else to feel like you were worthy in something, right? Otherwise you're like, oh, no one likes me. I'm not doing anything that they're doing. And that's where you kind of built your confidence, right? I relate to that so much because when I was in school, I was good at school, but I cheated on everything, all my classes, right? I was just really good at making friends with someone. They would give me their homework. They're good. And what happened was I, just like you, was like, oh, I can't fit into these groups because I can't talk about anything that they're talking about. So that's when I started to work out and lift. And now I had something of value because I was like the guy who lifted, and I got everyone in the gym, and I started to attract my people by doing something different, doing something that was worthwhile to me, and also something quote unquote attractive. So then I brought people around and we started to work out together. And that's how I built my initial kind of group of people. And what you're saying is that because you did something like that, now it has been such an important skill for you because now you are an entrepreneur. Now you think this way, you have this mindset, and it's paid off really well. And now your friends are people who are also doing the same things.
Yeah, I do want to touch on one thing because I think it's super important because I think it's a lot of things. It's one point that a lot of people don't touch on. And when I say I felt like the outcast in high school, I don't want people to think like, oh, he's talking about like he had no friends. He was, eating lunch in the bathroom. He had no one to talk to. I was a social butterfly. I was friends with everyone. You remember, I'm the youngest of my family, so I've always been good at connecting with people that are older than me. So like as a freshman, I was hanging out with older people too. I was friends with like a lot of people, and I was always hanging out with so many different people, so many different types of people. I didn't have one core group. I was more of just like, I could go hang out with everyone. But what I found in that is, since I was friends with so many different people, I didn't have a group, right? So it's almost like you have so many things that you have nothing, right? And when I said I felt like an outcast, it was more so like I don't have anything to connect with people in school. But I was always an athlete. I was always playing sports with a lot of people. I was always kind of funny. I guess I was kind of good looking. I guess I could say that, right? But so I had things to connect with people, but not what everyone else was connecting with. So it was almost like I had so many things, but at the same time, I had nothing. And that's what I think a lot of people could relate to, because, a lot of people, people say I'm popular. I had so many friends. But when you really get it out of them, they could say, well, yeah, I had a lot of friends, but I almost feel like I had nothing at that point. So I think it's super important to touch on, if that's the case, you have to try your hardest to highlight what you're good at and take that as your confidence, because confidence is going to attract a lot of good people and a lot of good things about yourself. It's going to let yourself learn so much more about yourself, instead of just dwindling on it and becoming sad about it and then becoming that person that eats lunch in the bathroom with no other people. It's not easily, but it's very simple to change that whole life. I could have been someone who maybe had no friends at all because I felt like I couldn't connect with people on a deeper level when it came to academics and school. But instead, I understood I still want friends. I still want to be social. I love everybody. Just because I can't correlate with them on school doesn't mean I should just not be friends with people. Let me learn something new about myself, and then let me channel that as my confidence and my persona. And what I learned is I'm athletic. I make a lot of friends as teammates. I'm funny. Let me be funny. I could try to be charismatic and just be a good person. And that's what still had me have a good connection with people. But I understood that school thing and that academic thing was never going to be that full connection with people. So why am I going to dwindle on it and become sad about it and say, screw it, I'm going to deal with it on my own, maybe outside of school, and just try to do my homework and study and stuff. And instead, I'm going to take all my other characteristics that I have and use it to my advantage.
So let's take that now. So that's the mindset you've built and what's given you the confidence that you have today. That's the exact kind of understanding that I wanted, right? So people, because I know you really well, but the people who are listening, they're like, oh, how is Junior so confident? So that's like the context right there. That's how you're so confident. Now let's go into kind of who you are today and how you are attracting the right people, how you're making the right friends. And I want to start with New Year's Eve because it's the third. New Year's Eve was 3 days ago. And that's the day you did the marathon. It kind of ties together because I was thinking about this earlier. We were all out there with our friends that, you know, everyone brought together. And I met you because I made friends with Connor. Connor introduced me to you. You introduced me to Parsa, and Parsa introduced 6 other people to us. And we were at this New Year's Eve party. I brought a couple of my friends and we all came together. And what happened was we were able to kind of share friends easily because we're all on the same wavelength. We all vibe kind of on the same frequency. We're all good people. And I mean, at the actual New Year's Eve party, none of us were drinking. Maybe one person, she was having a lot of fun, but she was safe, right?
Yeah.
But none of us were drinking. We were talking shop. We were having a good time and really just enjoying each other's values and each other's company. Why is it now that you can have this type of friend group where it's easy to attract people to you? It's easy to have people around you. Why do you think that is?
I would say because I understand what I want, right? A lot of people say, you know, I want to be good at networking. I want to meet a lot of friends that are multimillionaires and have X, Y, and Z, but they don't have any of their priorities straight and they don't know exactly what they want. You know, same thing when you're building a business or building an offer. You have to know exactly what you have in plan so that you could basically just execute that strategy. So it comes to the same thing with life and meeting new people. I understood exactly what I was working towards and what I wanted. And in the meantime of that process, I met everyone down the line when I was working on that strategy on becoming what I wanted to do. But it was all because I figured out exactly what I wanted to do, right? If I want to be an entrepreneur, I want to make a business, I want to do these types of things to impact the world, you're going to end up meeting the right people along that way because you're going to be working hard towards that goal. If your only hope is I just want to go to college and party and be in a frat, you're going to have a ton of frat bros, you know, because that's what you want. So it really depends on what you have to make up your mind, what kind of route you're going to take in life. And then once you figure out that route and you kind of nail down what you want to do and you create a plan, down the line of executing that plan, people are going to come across your life that you're going to find really valuable, and they might find you really valuable as well, and you're going to connect. The next thing you know, that slowly your network is going to start building. And just like with us, you know, you have a lot of people that you've met along your way that I haven't met yet because maybe I haven't gone down far enough in my path, and now I meet those people. And the same thing vice versa. So it's all about understanding what you really want in life, and you're going to find those people. It's common sense, right? And it's another reason how we were able to have so much fun while being sober, which to the normal person, that sounds crazy. Like New Year's Eve, you guys aren't drinking, like at least some champagne. Like I want to get tipsy. I want to get drunk to have fun. But we understood like we're in such a good environment. We're around such good people that I don't need alcohol to have fun. Like this is one of my best friends. This is my circle. This is the people that we talk to all day, every single day, grinding and working out new ideas and stuff. I can just talk to you and have a great time because both of our goals correlate. So we get to connect at such a higher level that we don't need substance. And that's the best part. That's why New Year's is so fun.
That's good. I think about this all the time. And it's the fact that a lot of people have a lot of friends, right? But when it comes down to hanging out with one of those friends one-on-one, they can't do it because they just don't actually align. There has to have another person there. And then it's like the three of them can hang out, right? But you can't hang out one-on-one. And I think about that all the time. That's kind of like my gauge. my test to see if the person, someone in my life, do I really like the person? Do I really actually enjoy and align with them? Is if I call them and say, or if they call me and say, do you want to hang out and just go grab some coffee? Would I want to do it? I think something with us is that everyone within that circle would be able to hang out with each other because we're all aligned and we all have similar mindsets. And I want to add on to what you said earlier of knowing what you want. You have to know what you want out of the people you want in your life. You have to know what kind of values they stand by. You have to ask yourself, how do they treat other people? What are their interests and passions? What do they do every single day? How do they think? And it starts with asking yourself, how do I treat other people? What are my values? How do I handle situations? And then once you define those things, you now have the filter for when you meet someone. It's like instantly, does this person align with the person I want to be around? And then now it's super fast. And I think you've done that without even doing it, but you've done it in your mind to say, I want people who are entrepreneurs. I want people who are healthy. I want people who look good. And that's a real thing. You know what I mean? It's honest. But when you do it, that's when all of them come.
Yep. I want to ask you a question, if you don't mind, because I know you're really good with this topic. But, a lot of people say, okay, yeah, I'm hanging out with some people and I notice I don't want to hang out with them. I want to change the group of people I'm hanging out with. Can you touch on the importance of energy that you output that correlates with attracting new people? Because I think that's something that people don't even know about, don't even understand. I know you're really good with this.
Yeah, you know the fire. So imagine our life like a radio station. We tune to a certain frequency. And when we do it, certain station plays, right? And we all play different types of music. So if you, Junior, if your station starts playing R&B, like I dig R&B. I'm like, cool, this is a good vibe. It's a similar vibe to me because I also play R&B on my station. And then I'm tuning into your radio and all of a sudden, heavy metal just go boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? And I'm just like, what is going on? So I'm going to tune out immediately because heavy metal just isn't my vibe. Right. And then you tune to jazz and the people are just so confused as to like, what is going on? So they tune out of that station. That's like us with our vibes that we put out. When we're being inauthentic, it's hard to choose who to be. So you're all these different things and people sniff that out and they're like, I don't want to be around this person. They're inauthentic. Now, when you start to be authentic with your true self, that is when you get to understand what vibes you're putting out. You ask yourself, right? What vibrations am I putting out? Which is your frequencies. When you understand that, it's okay. I'm putting out positive energy. I'm putting out good thoughts, good emotions. And that is your vibration that people feel when they're around you. And when you're like that and you meet someone else, like if I meet you, Junior, in person and you're tuned into that same frequency of positivity, that's when you can feel it. And that's where you go and say, I feel like we're on the same wavelength right now. And it's science. It's actual science of being on the same wavelength and being on the same positive frequency. And that's why when someone very negative comes in the room, their frequency's down here. So you can feel their energy in the room. That's why all of this starts to align, like feeling energies and this, that, and the other. It's not woo stuff. It's real energetic alignment. And that's how we attract our tribe.
Definitely. And dude, that's so true. Cause like the first time we hung out, I was like, dude, I was talking to Connor. I'm like, it's so easy for us to all just talk. Like that was the easiest conversation I've ever had. And it was all because, and we weren't just talking business the whole time. We're chit-chatting about some,
talking
fun stuff,
right.
Whatever, crazy stuff that's happened, some trips, all the fun stuff that's happening there. So it's almost like if you really have that same energy as someone else, it's super easy. But in order to do that, you have to figure out what your energy is. You have to figure out what you want, And like you said, what you want out of other people, because it's going to help you look at yourself and say, okay, well, am I going to give the same thing back to them? Right. And that's going to help that connection. And one thing I did want to touch on is something I learned during the race was momentum. Right. And I took that lesson and put it towards my everyday work and my everyday habits, is how important momentum is. Right. When you're running that race, as soon as you start walking, it's super hard to get back running. You start feeling all the pain. You start feeling your feet start hurting. You know, you're going uphill. You start walking. It's hard to get back to start running back uphill. But it's the same thing when it comes to work. You know, if you're waking up at 5 a.m. every single day and you're like, but I want to go out, it means I'm going to sleep in. Don't stop that momentum, right? You started something very powerful. Keep it going. Write it out as long as you can. And before you know it, you're going to look up and be like, holy smokes, what just happened? But that's because of that momentum you created. And so many people ruin momentum, right? They may do something for a little bit and they might get a reward. Okay, I'm going to relax now. I'm going to enjoy this little reward. And it just screws up all the momentum. And they just stay at the same period of their life because they'll speed up and then they'll take a break and slow down and slow down. Speed up, and then they wonder why hyper successful people are super successful. But it's because they are obsessed with momentum. They understand, if I do X, Y, and Z for so long, I'm going to be so much farther ahead of everybody else. I'm going to go as long as I can. And by the power of the universe, I mean, it's inevitable that the success is going to come if you keep that momentum going. That's just one thing I did want to touch on real quick before we jumped on another conversation about energy or anything like that, because momentum, I noticed, was super, super important.
There's always a positive and a negative to everything we do. You know, there's always a God and a devil, always a light and a dark, and there's no one without the other, right? Darkness is basically the lack of light. So in this case, momentum and then momentum killers, it's identifying momentum. What is the strategy? What is the thing that I'm going to do consistently that's going to build a snowball effect to make me more successful, make me more rich, make me more healthy, whatever it is. But then it's also the momentum killers. Identifying the momentum killers is what makes the momentum work, because we all want to grow. That's what human nature is. Ever since the beginning of time, we've always wanted to grow and do something, whether it's, you know, get healthier, eat better food, have better status, have more, you know, for us women, in that case, right, of back then. Now, it's like, what are the momentum killers here? It is non-virtuous women, right? It is negative people. It is energy sucking friends in your life, or even like in this case with male friends who have too high of an ego. That's a huge energy drainer as well, right? Because I don't want to just say it's the women. It's the non-virtuous women that cause the problem. It's also the men. And then it is social media, which is a huge thing. So my question for you is, what have been momentum killers in the past in your life? And how do people kind of escape the noise of the momentum to be able to move forward?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest momentum killers for me have simply been the people. People have been super big momentum killers, whether they're great people, but maybe they just want to smoke all day. That's a momentum killer, but I don't want to smoke and just sit down all day and do nothing. Kills the momentum, right? And maybe people that just don't have the same goals as you. You know, there's people that are like, hey, like, I know you want to work, but like, let's go grab some lunch, and then let's go over here, and then let's go do this, and then let's go do that. And it's like, bro, by the time we're done hanging out, you just wasted 8 hours of my day. And it's like, I love hanging out with you. You're a great person. You're a great friend. But at the same time, you're a horrible friend because I can't work, because, you know, it's tempting to go hang out with you and have this great time. But you have to understand that there's certain times of the day and certain days where it's like, I should only be doing this because I have this goal. And a lot of people just can't align with those same goals. So they're going to try to tear you away from it, because it's those type of people. It's their natural instinct to try to pull you away from your goal because they want your attention. And they want to feel like, this person that has a big goal is hanging out with me. That's the biggest thing that I've noticed, right? This person that's working towards something so big is friends with me. Or this person I've done something so big and so amazing and so many accomplishments is now hanging out with me that's doing this. And sometimes it's not out of the badness of their heart, but it could hurt you in a negative way. And it could tear you away from the certain goals that you have. So you have to understand, which goes back to how we're picking our friends and knowing what we want out of them. You have to understand that it's just how it is. Some people just want very different things than you do, right? And you have to understand that if you select to hang out with those people that want very different things than you, it could hurt you in a big way. Because if I go hang out with you, Leo, we're going to sit down at your table and we're going to have a great time working on our own things in the same space. Right. And then maybe I'll think of something and I'll pitch you an idea. You can give me some feedback. You can take that idea and we can do the same thing, vice versa. And that's how we connect. And that's how we have a great time. But then if I go hang out with someone who doesn't have the same goal, bro, let's not be on the laptop. Let's go drive over here. There's some other friends I want to hang out at their house and chill out for a little bit. Might play some video games or something. That does sound like a great time too, maybe to them. But let's think of the benefit of the good time that we're going to have. Am I going to have a better outcome of hanging out and having a great time with those friends playing video games and all that? Am I going to have a better outcome of having a great time with you doing work and sitting down and pitching some ideas, maybe grabbing some food for a food break, coming back and working again, even though I'm going to have the same amount of fun and enjoyment? It's obviously going to be you, right? Because of our goals that align. And let me tell you the other side of the fun, right? That those dopamine hits of hanging out with so many people and playing video games and maybe drinking or smoking, whatever you're into. The dopamine is only there for a little bit, and then you're going to have regret, right? You're going to have so much fun, right? Maybe hanging out with all these people you haven't seen in a bit. Or maybe you seen them yesterday and you just want to hang out again and play the video games and smoke and drink. As soon as you're done hanging out, you're going to regret all of it because you're going to feel like you wasted your day. Yeah. Dopamine crash. Rather with you, we can only hang out for 4 hours, but my dopamine is just through the roof after, because I'm like, dude, the amount of work I got done today and hung out with a great friend, had some good conversations as well. That was a great day. Let's have a great day tomorrow. And that goes into momentum, right? Keeping it flowing. So that's how people could literally change everything in their life by just choosing momentum over momentum killers. And a lot of times it's hard to see the momentum killers because they're disguised. You don't know they're momentum killers until you really analyze everything you're doing in your life and if they align with your goals and what you could be doing other than those things that's going to help even more. And then you're going to soon realize, oh shoot, this has been ruining my day-to-day life so much. I can be so much farther if I just change this one little thing and stop hanging out with those people and maybe stop smoking and drinking and playing video games. And instead maybe hang out with someone that has the same goals as me and we just worked all day. And I'm actually having the same amount of fun, but after I'm feeling really good about myself as well. I think that's what's going to help people a lot.
And people think it's an either or world. It's like I either hang out with these bums who aren't doing anything with their lives, but it's fun, or I hang out with these people who are on the goals. Which one do I choose? Sometimes the bums for more fun, right? And I call them bums for a reason, right? Because I was a bum as well. So I'm able to say that. And the thing about it is that it's not an either or world. It's an and world. Instead of hanging out with the bums for 8 hours a day, hang out with them for an hour. Like go hang out, go to the first destination, which is someone's house, and you're just hanging out and you're talking. And when they go to the next destination to go play video games or go to do the next thing, say, hey guys, I got to go work. I got to go work on the mission, right? What's going to happen? They're going to be like, whoa, what do you mean? Right? What are you talking about? But that happens. Instead of 8 hours, take it to 1 hour. And then start small. Start finding someone to hang out with for 30 minutes. Go to their house and just chat with them, or go to a coffee shop and talk shop to get used to the conversations that you're going to go over. Because in the beginning, I know for you and I both, Junior, when we first started to connect with other people, higher level people, it's like, it was almost like a mentee mentor type thing of they're just teaching us, or we don't know so much to say. But as you go out with more people, then that's exactly kind of where you and I are, Junior, when we hang out. Like, we're very energetically synced. We have worked on our communication. We have worked on our own self-care and self-love. So we're secure in ourselves. And that's actually a topic I want to talk about. I think it's the most important thing. The fact that we're so connected while also being, as masculine as we are and as quote unquote competitive, we're still able to connect with each other in such a way where there's no ego. Why do you think that is? Like, why can we both be secure in ourselves and have no ego when we talk to each other?
Because there's no envy. There's zero envy out of either of our hearts. Right. And that's very difficult for people because, maybe for my situation, when I first met you, I'm like, okay, Leo, he's been doing this a lot longer than me. He's farther in his journey. He's maybe a lot more mentally mature than I am right now when it comes to business and all these things. I could have had envy in my heart and jealousy and all that stuff when I'm talking to you and you giving me advice, and you would ask me, right, is it cool if I give you advice right now? Because you'd want to make sure if I'm okay hearing it. What I always say, I would tell you, bro, give it to me. I don't care, right? Tell me. Like, I could take it. I don't take it in a bad way, because I don't only look at you as a friend, I also look at you as a mentor in things that I don't know yet, right? So when we're both able to have zero envy and zero competition against each other when it comes to the things that we've achieved, there's no hatred, and we're able to just connect on a personal level. And keep in mind, yeah, we're all competitive. We all want to outwork each other, but in a positive way, not in like, oh, dude, screw Leo. He did this. I haven't done it yet. Screw him. I'm mad at him, or I'm jealous that he's got that out of the way already. Me, I'm the complete other way. Like, damn, Leo's already done this. I need to get up and go do it. And then talking to you is going to be such a good thing, because you're going to say, this is how I did it. But if I never dropped that ego from myself, I would have never gotten that conversation out of you. We would have never connected. And it could be vice versa. I could go do a marathon and you're like, damn, I've always wanted to be doing a marathon. Instead, you'd be like, screw Junior, yeah, whatever. He probably walked the whole thing. But instead, you're like, dude, I'm proud of you. Great, good shit, blah, blah. I'm looking to do a marathon. What did you do? Like, how was it? Like, when did you start getting tired? How was this? Like, how would you say you would prepare for it if you would do it again? And now we're just connecting and chit-chatting and talking, because I know that you want the best out of me, and you know that I want the best out of you. So it's never envy. It's never jealousy. And that's what a lot of people struggle with, because a lot of people have the same goals as we do, but they don't have the discipline, so the effort to put in. So the envy comes out of them, and they don't get to connect with us. They don't get on the same wavelength, because they'll never get to the work ethic that we are at, because their ego comes into play. Their dopamine levels are going to be towards somewhere else, and their goals are mixed up, right? So they don't get that personal connection out of people, because of all the jealousy and the envy comes out of them first.
I think this is such a foundational topic, because someone might ask you or I, like, Junior, Leo, how did you get to where you are? And before we even tell them, oh, here's the strategy that I used, here's the business model that I used, or here's what I did, here was my routine. Before we even say that, we know that if they don't have the ego in place, if they don't have the mindset in place, they can try all the strategies in the entire world. But if they don't have that right, they're not going to succeed. And they're not going to make friends. They're not going to make real friends, for that matter. You might make a ton of fake friends with all the strategies in the world, but you're not going to make real connections and have that genuine happiness. And ego is something that we all have. it's not something you can get rid of. Like you and I still have ego. We still have, it's what protects us. It's what makes us who we are. It's what makes us ambitious, but it's controlling the ego and being able to control your ability to not be envious. And I want to hear from you. What was the inner work that you did that allowed you to not be envious, that allowed you to have security in yourself? A lot of people are insecure. That's why they're fucking haters. So many haters out there. But how are you not a hater? How somehow were you able to just be who you are?
I'm going to tell you a good story. It's one of my favorite stories. But leading up to that story, I'm going to say it's because I always knew that whatever I wanted, I was going to get sooner or later. I was going to get to that point. So why be envy and jealous about it if I know I'm going to get there one day? I just knew I had to trust the process. I had my goals aligned accordingly to where, like, okay, I see that I really like it. Maybe this person has done it. I'm going to get it too. I know it. Right. So I would just go back and look at the process. Okay. I just got to do X, Y, and Z, and I'll end up at that same place. For example, in high school, my group of friends, I was more on the lower income side. Right. So I was a full-time athlete year round. So I didn't really have time to work a job. So my parents would support me as much as they could. But my other friends, I was blessed enough to surround myself with great friends, and their families ended up just being super successful. Another thing that we could talk about in a little bit. So we would go shopping, and maybe all my friends were able to buy, all these designer stuff and all these cool things that I wasn't able to buy yet. And I remember talking to Parsa, and I was like, dude, I can't wait until the day I get to leave here with some bags in my hand with you guys. And I was like, I know it's going to come. I just can't wait for the day. 2 months later, there were 7 of us. Like, we all left the Burberry store, and I left with 2 bags. Everyone left with 2 bags. And I was like, this is the sickest part ever. And Parsa looks at me and he was like, hey, remember when you said that day was going to come? He's like, you did it. Right. So I was like, the highest level of dopamine. I was like, this is the best thing ever, because I told myself I was going to do it. But instead of just getting jealous and saying, oh, daddy's money, or this is, you guys didn't do anything for this, blah, blah, anything, which they did work for their money. I want to get that out of the way. But I could have been a hater, right? I could have been a hater from day one. But instead I took it for motivation. I don't want to be the most successful person in the room. I don't. I want to be constantly working to be in the same game as the other people I'm hanging out with. And that's what I've always been doing, right? I've been hanging around people that have maybe lived a different life and a different upbringing than me. And that's definitely okay. Blessed for them. That's awesome for them. But I'm going to work as hard as I can to where I can get to the same point as them, because I know that's going to be so fun. Right? It's just going to be so much fun, because now we're on the same level, but we've always been on the same wavelength. So we've been able to connect. But now it's just more of like a challenge for me in a good way. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. 100%. And I've always said that those who are hating are very insecure in themselves. Because just like you're saying, you could hate, but you're confident and secure knowing that you have the skills and you have the mindset to be able to do the work to eventually get there. And everything's God's timing. So it's like, hey, maybe it's not time right now, but it's going to come. The haters are so insecure because they know they're lazy. They know they don't do anything with their lives. They know they smoke all day. They know they do the things that hold them back every day from actually being successful. So all they can do is hate, because it gives them just a little bit more reassurance that they're worthy to be on the same platforms and on the same places as these people, right? And of course, everybody is worthy to be on earth. Everybody is worthy has equal opportunity. us being in America. But when you really think about it, if you're going to be lazy for the next 10 years, right? If you're going to be hating for the next 10 years, what is the point? You're living this life with just so much negativity and putting it out there. And I know those people have in the back of their mind, I want to change. I want the change. I just don't know how. And I'm scared and I'm insecure and I'm lonely and I just don't know what to do. And all I know is how to hate. It's what my parents taught me. It's all I've seen. Speak to that person, Junior, and speak to them on how they get out of it. Because maybe the person, I mean, it's been 51 minutes. So the person here is probably learning a lot. But let's say that person has gone all the way here, 51 minutes, and they've been, maybe hating on us the whole 50 minutes, but they're at this point saying, I want to change. What do you say to them?
On the other side of vulnerability is the most fulfillment you'll probably ever feel and receive. And a lot of people are scared to be vulnerable. Whether it's on social media or in person, a lot of people are scared to be vulnerable. But what it stops you from doing is letting yourself connect with other people that might be feeling the same way, but just like you, they don't want to be vulnerable. Now you both have these egos and blocks up against each other and you guys can't connect. It's super easy to hate. And just like everything in life, easy things are not as good as harder things, no matter what it is. You have to not drop your ego, because everyone needs a little bit of ego. You have to. But drop the negative ego and be okay with being open about yourself and being vulnerable so that so many other people can come to you. And that's going to be your probably good way of giving out good energy, because someone else is like, wow, this guy's being vulnerable. I want to connect with him. He seems very confident in himself. And it can be that one little change, right? Because you think you can be so confident. And you're thinking like, yes, I'm this confident dude, right? No one can mess with me, this, and that. But people that are actually confident and vulnerable with themselves and with other people that are able to connect can just spot this dude and just say, he's not confident at all. It's a wall he's putting up. Like, for instance, I hope I could speak for you, Leo, but for me, it's super easy to notice people like that. Super, super easy. But because we put in the hard work on being able to work on ourselves, to being vulnerable enough to connect with other people and hearing other people's stories and understanding what they're going through and trying to help them out with no strings attached at all, that you understand that this guy that's putting up a front is little to nothing. Not in a bad way, but he might just not be there yet, which is okay. But in the meantime, they're not going to get anywhere because they're not being vulnerable enough to be okay with themselves and understand that they have a lot to work on, which is okay. I have a lot to work on. You have a lot to work on. We all have a lot to work on. But if you don't own up to it, you're going to work on nothing for so long. And then you're really going to have a lot to work on in the future. So what you're doing is just wasting time, right? If you look at your 30-year-old self, the amount of time you're not accepting how much stuff you have to work on is just going to push that 30-year-old self farther down the line of what you really want. If you want him to be super successful, his success is going to be delayed every single day. You don't accept on where you are at in life and what you need to do. So that's what I would say to them.
What makes us different is that we think exactly like that, right? Who's the greatest version of ourselves? We know that person exists. How would they act right now? That's just who we are, right? Me and you connecting right now, we're pretty young, but I see who you're going to be when you're 30, and you see who I'm going to be when I'm 30, but we are already that person. So when we are 30, we're going to look back and just laugh and be like, wow, what a great mindset you guys had. At this age, what a great mindset. And I think that there's layers to it, because you and I give a lot of advice to people because people ask us advice. And sometimes we'll say top of the line advice, like, what would your best version of yourself do? But what happens is most people's mindsets are here and they can't even imagine the future self because they, in the future, maybe they're still haters in the next 10 years. And they think that, and they don't even think about the future, and they don't want to, and they don't think about the past because they don't want to. So they'd have never done the inner work to actually say, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? Why don't people want to be around me? Why do people want to be around me? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? When you do that inner work, you can actually get to understand who you are and where you could go. That's just been the biggest key for the self-awareness that I know you and I both have, and what makes us connect and what has allowed us to not be insecure. And you're exactly right. When we see one of those people, instantly we know, like, you're insecure. It's okay. You're insecure. Right. And I think that we should be able to bring back blunt honesty about these type of people, let's just say men for right now. I can't speak for women at the moment. In this case, I haven't talked to enough women about it, but the men, very insecure men, being able to say, you're insecure, fix it. And you say it in a way of like, this is what it could look like. This is what vulnerability looks like. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and people put up this fake confidence because they're insecure and don't have true confidence for them to be vulnerable. And that's what is hurting them so much right now. And it can go back to multiple things, but one thing, like you just said, they don't know who they're going to be in 10 years. So they have to put up this forefront and say, this is who I am now. Well, no one really cares about who you are now, right? The true people that are working towards very big things, they care about what they're going to be in 10 years when they're 30 years old at our age, right? That's the biggest thing. Someone might be, oh, well, you've only done this right now. Okay, cool. I don't care about that. I'm trying to get enough done to where I'm in line of where I want to be in 10 years when I'm 30. So that right now, cool. That's okay. Because I'm working towards something much bigger. You just don't see the picture yet because you're not at that stage right now, which is okay. But, a good way to think about it is I hear people say you should never meet your idols or you should never meet your heroes. But that's because they think of their idols as like Kim Kardashian or all these celebrities. When really, for myself, my idol is me 10 years from now, right? And in 10 years, it's going to be me in 10 years from then. So I'll never get to meet my idol or my hero, but it'll be enough because it'll be someone that I'm always chasing. So I have to be okay with, I'm knowing I'll never meet that person because wherever I'm at, he'll always be 10 years ahead of me. But I'm going to be chasing that person for the rest of my life. That's going to make me always work to be better and better. And that's something that people need to have in mind, but they just want to stay where they're at because it's too hard to look that far in the future. And it's too hard on themselves because they just can't own up to the fact that what they're doing right now isn't enough.
Amen. This has been great. We've gone over so many topics, and for people listening, like, this is how me and Junior talk to each other. Like, when we're on the phone, when we're in person, like, we just talk about this. And I think if there's anything you can leave off on my end on this podcast would be, you need to be able to do the self-work, the inner work, to understand yourself, to then attract the people around you, to then have friends like, Junior, have friends like Connor and our people, to now have these type of conversations, because it's the quickest growth. The reason I'm doing this podcast with Junior here, because I want to learn from Junior. I want to understand his mindset, and I want to give it to you guys. That's the takeaway that I want you to take from me. But Junior, what takeaway and message do you want to give to people to make sure they're taking action after this podcast? They're motivated, they're feeling good, but what can they do and focus on?
Think about the future, but don't get stuck in the future. Understand that your future goals are only going to happen with what you do now. And doing so is going to help you in so many ways that you don't even know yet. If you're sad or quote unquote depressed, that's going to go away. If you're confused and have anxiety and you feel lost, that's going to go away. Your productivity is going to go up. All these things are going to get fixed because you understand that you have a vision of the future and now you're planning for it right now. And all you have to do is look at that plan and execute it every single day, right? We always talk about public victories, but think about the private victories. What are you doing every single day that are the true victories that no one else sees? Are you getting up early? That's a victory. Did you open up your computer 30 minutes earlier than you did the day before? That's another victory. Did you start to get to work an hour earlier today? That's a victory. All these things stack. And that's going to help momentum, just like how we talked about earlier. And doing all these things is going to create the right energy to where now you can connect with more people, how we talked about earlier. And all these things are going to start aligning, and you're going to start finding yourself around the same people so we could have these hour-long conversations like me and Leo are having right now, but maybe just like at our house off camera. And you're going to start realizing that all these things are coming into play. And damn, 2024 is going to be a crazy year because of the things we're doing like this. That's what I want people to take away.
100%. If you guys want to have more conversations like this with me and Junior, I'll put the link down below to join the Truka community where you can talk to us and hundreds of other people just like us and really get connected with them. And just being around this type of energy, continue listening to this podcast. But Junior, where can people continue to follow your mindset and your thinking? Where can they follow you?
Instagram, definitely. It's just Junior with 2 R's, Gadino. And I'm going to be more active on TikTok, where I'm going to be posting a lot more conversations and advice and talking about just business and whatnot and all those fun things. That's going to be Gabe.Gadino, because Junior Gadino was taken. Gabe's my real name, Gade.Gadino, unfortunately. But yeah, those are the 2 platforms. Looking to get on YouTube. If I am on YouTube, you guys will probably find that out through my other platforms. But yeah.
This will be a podcast that people go. This is a podcast that people will come back to for years and years. And I'm glad to know you. I'm grateful for you. Cheers.
Right back at you, brother. My tea's gone, but I have a little bit left. But cheers.
That's the thing. Drink your tea. Drink your water, stay hydrated, and stay connected.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Peace. Good conversation.